The private medical clinic was divided by a clean, stylish hallway into two wings. On the left were the adult patients, and on the right, those under 18. Clem, once inside, immediately turned left toward the stairs, ignoring the elevator. He didn't want to meet anyone or share the cramped space of the elevator car with patients or doctors. The man clutched a bouquet of flowers that Lorrie, his wife, would neither smell nor see. A waste of money, of course, but it was crucial for him to maintain the appearance of caring for his wife, more important now than ever. The stark white light of the hospital was too bright for him. It stung his eyes, reddened from a sleepless night. Clem had spent nearly the entire night at his friend's club, smoking hookah and drinking. In the morning he'd taken some medicine to get rid of a headache and chomped through a pack of gum, promising frosty fresh breath to hide traces of his revelry. Yet the reflection he caught in the mirror before leaving still looked haggard. He walked along the now familiar hospital route. His wife's room was on the second floor, at the very end. She had been lying here for over a month. Clem realised that every day Lorrie spent in the clinic, with its expensive equipment and best doctors, was costing him dearly. He resented it, but what could he do? Suggest there was no hope, and it was time to let Lorrie go? Asking the doctors to disconnect her from the machines? Or hint that she should be transferred to a simpler facility? No, that would be too suspicious and even dangerous. Clem, by nature cowardly, couldn't afford such a risk. Clem reached the room and was about to open the door when he froze, like prey sensing a predator. "Yes, you shouldn't grieve so much. There was an incident last week, but we managed to pull your daughter through," a man's voice said outside the door. "Now the prognosis is excellent. Believe me, we're doing absolutely everything we can to help Lorrie. You know, we've already done so much. The last operation was a great success. It's all up to Lorrie now. She has a young body. I'm sure she'll cope and pull through." Clem listened, his ear nearly pressed to the door. He recognised the calm timbre of Lorrie's attending physician, a neurosurgeon, who was also the head of the hospital, Dr. Brousseau. Clem disliked the man. He was too kind, incorruptible, and proper. If someone else had been in his place, Lorrie wouldn't have clung to life for so long. But this doctor was still trying to save her, though Clem was sure he was just milking him for money. A jerk in a white coat. A woman sobbed outside the door. A man with a husky voice immediately began to comfort her. Clem rolled his eyes to the ceiling, but immediately winced in pain. "Charming," the visitor mentally muttered. "My in-laws are here too, just what I need, today." Clem gripped the flower stems tighter, wondering if he should flee. He could come back later, perhaps wait in the restroom. However, Clem stayed to eavesdrop on the neurosurgeon's words. "Look, there's no need to be upset, especially in front of Lorrie. On the contrary, you should talk to her more often now. Support her. Let your words be positive," the doctor insisted with his usual gentleness. Clem nearly let out a disgruntled snort. The jerk had persuaded them to talk to Lorrie, who lay there lifeless, seemingly turning into a vegetable. "Can our daughter hear us?" Sarah Flynn asked hopefully. "Yes, she hears everything. Well, I believe so," the man reassured the patient's parents. "Understand, a coma is one of the most mysterious human states. We can't count on a miracle like they show in movies or fairy tales like Sleeping Beauty. She can't simply wake up and start running. We have many challenges ahead, but that's for later. Currently, we can try to help Lorrie. My team and I will provide supportive care. I expect you to help as well." "What kind of help?" the woman sobbed. "We'll do anything." The doctor paused for a moment, then tried to explain. "You know, a study by doctors was recently published in a journal," the neurosurgeon began. "The article stated that comatose patients recovered faster and better when supported by loved ones. For instance, some patients listened through headphones to their favourite songs, familiar stories or books, or even better, recorded stories from family members about their lives. These were the voices of parents, grandparents, siblings. Using magnetic resonance imaging during these listening sessions, scientists noticed a significant increase in neural activity in certain areas of the patient's brains. After a few weeks of such stimulation, treatment dynamics improved and patients began responding to other external stimuli. Clem frowned. He wondered if the doctor truly believed what he was saying, or was he just tired of watching Lorrie's parents wail, making the room damp. Seriously, Sarah was crying so much she might flood the room floor and breed frogs. Although it was easy to understand the parents' suffering. Lorrie was the late and deeply loved child of the Flynn couple. She grew up a real princess. Sarah gave birth to the child on her third attempt. Sadly, the first 2 pregnancies ended in loss. She experienced each loss profoundly, thankfully with Bernard always there to support his wife. When she became pregnant for the 3rd time, she had little hope. However, Lorrie, as Sarah later said, very much wanted to meet her parents. Doctors called the birth of a healthy girl a real miracle. Naturally, the overjoyed parents surrounded Lorrie with not only care and love, but also every available benefit. By that time, her father had already built a construction business. The small company grew stronger and stronger. At first, he focused on building private houses, then entire cottage communities. He handed his brainchild over to his daughter a few years ago, retiring to a well-deserved rest. Lorrie became a worthy heiress. As head of the company, Lorrie met Clem. He was then a manager in a young construction materials company. They met at a real estate forum for business, networking between developers and contractors. Lorrie was a speaker. While some men in the audience were initially skeptical about a woman in the construction business, as soon as Lorrie opened her mouth, she won everyone over. Lorrie Flynn was a self-confident and incredibly beautiful woman, as if from a magazine cover. She exuded a special energy. Clem didn't immediately dare approach her, being a simple manager from an ordinary family. However, he took a risk, and it turned out Lorrie didn't care at all about his position. She never judged people by gender, hierarchy, wealth or appearance. She liked Clem. He was charming, skilled at joking, and courted her gallantly. A romance quickly blossomed between Lorrie and Clem. Soon, Clem quit his job to work for Sarah's company. Clem swiftly realized he couldn't find a better partner in life. He proposed to Lorrie 6 months after they met. Surprisingly, Lorrie agreed. Though she was the company's head, adept at making deals and resolving conflicts, even donning a helmet to visit construction sites, she remained a woman in love. At first, everything went smoothly. Clem enjoyed his new life of comfort and prosperity. Lorrie wasn't bothered that she earned more than her husband. She bought her husband a new luxurious car. However, Clem's desires soon began to grow. What he had was no longer enough. Moreover, he became increasingly paranoid. After social gatherings with friends or relatives, he'd return home angry and indignant. A year after the wedding, he finally lost his temper. "Did you see how they look at me? Like I'm your lapdog, an appendage to my wife. It's infuriating," he fumed after a New Year's Eve party. "You're always talking about your company and your plans." "They asked about it," Lorrie replied, confused, as she removed the astonishing earrings her parents had given her. "Should I have stayed silent?" "You could have, for once," Clem hissed, yanking off his tie. "Everyone's laughing at me behind my back. Soon they'll say I'm here as a house husband, and will ask me which toilet cleaner is better to use, lemon or Alpine Fresh. You're being ridiculous. Lorrie frowned, upset. She had thought the party went well. No one thinks that, except you. The man stood rigid, clenching and unclenching his fists. Then he blurted out what had been on his mind for months. You know what, Lorrie? I want you to hand over the running of the company to me. Officially. Clem had recently gotten a promotion at his wife's company, becoming something of a right-hand man, but apparently that wasn't enough for him. Why? Lorrie gasped. Because I work just as hard as you, but nobody cares, because I'm the man of the house. Yet no one understands that, not even you. You should settle down already. Give me a child at last. Stay home and take care of our family, and I'll run the business. It's the right thing to do. Lorrie turned pale. The couple had been trying to conceive since their wedding, but unsuccessfully. Lorrie knew her mother's story and feared a similar fate. Secretly, she was even afraid of conceiving and then losing the baby. Perhaps that's why nothing worked, as the doctors couldn't find any other reason. They said the problem was in Lorrie's head, though she was physically healthy. However, the husband's words hurt her even more. My father built this company, Lorrie said. You have everything. You have power, an office, subordinates, and power of attorney. You can sign all the documents. But the company will remain mine, and then it will go to our children. Clem's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Then he spat out caustically. Ah, to the children you can't seem to give birth to. I guess you're better at business than at motherhood. With that, he left the room, slamming the door. Lorrie was shocked by this argument that came out of nowhere. However, it was only the first in a series of quarrels. A month ago, she and Clem attended a business party. Lorrie's mood was low. She and her husband were arguing more frequently, and now Lorrie didn't think about a child. She contemplated divorce, but was afraid to voice it. Divorce seemed like a defeat, something wrong. She kept giving Clem chances, but he squandered them all. At the party, despite her inner turmoil, Lorrie outwardly remained composed, beautiful and dignified. She was like a queen at a reception. The businesswomen engaged in polite conversations with the men and their companions. Clem, eyeing his wife like a wolf, grew increasingly intoxicated. The evening was far from over when he abruptly interrupted the conversation between his wife and her business partner, roughly grabbing her elbow and pulling her away. "Excuse me, I need my wife's attention too," he sneered, noting the surprise on Lorrie's interlocutor's face. "What are you doing?" Lorrie whispered, frightened but trying to maintain her composure. "You're hurting me." Clem ignored her protests. He dragged his wife out of the restaurant and into the parking lot, shoving her into the passenger seat of his luxury car before slamming the door. "We're leaving. I'm sick of watching you flirt with everyone. And the way they look at you. Those bigwigs," he snarled. "Now I see why your business is booming. You played the role of a real woman, didn't you? How many times did you spread your legs for lucrative contracts, huh?" Lorrie was so shocked. She didn't immediately register that Clem had inserted the key into the ignition. "Clem, no, you're drunk. Please, calm down. Let's call a cab and go home." "I'll drive myself," he bellowed. "Sit down. You're my wife. My wife. You're married to me. You must obey me. I'm the head of the family. Understand?" Lorrie attempted to escape the car, but was too late. The expensive vehicle lurched forward, tires screeching. Lorrie screamed as she was thrown against the dashboard, then slammed back into her seat. Clem continued to yell, while Lorrie wept, begging him to stop. With trembling hands, she fastened her seatbelt for some protection, but it was futile. "We're getting a divorce," she screamed internally. "I'm leaving you." At that moment, Clem swerved violently, losing control of the steering wheel. the car careened off the road. There were no witnesses. The crash site was devoid of houses or cameras. The man erased the video from the car's recorder, then removed and concealed it. When the police arrived, Clem bribed them with a substantial sum to believe his fabricated story. He claimed he had seen a wild animal, and Lorrie, being kind-hearted, had screamed, startling him, and yanked the steering wheel. The animal escaped, but Lorrie was injured, and he was only slightly shaken. Lorrie suffered a head injury, resulting in a brain hemorrhage. She fell into a coma after surgery. Now Clem visited her, sitting in the room, playing on his phone while feigning concern. He brought flowers and affected a sad expression when nurses entered. They worried about him, offering sedatives. The only person Clem's act didn't fool was the doctor. That damned doctor. He looked at Clem as if he could see right through him. Clem tried to avoid Dr. Brousseau, but today he wasn't so lucky. He heard voices fall silent and was contemplating an escape when the door opened. His mother-in-law was the first to notice him. Her husband supported her as he held a handkerchief to her nose.
"Oh, Clem, you came again, my dear."
She embraced her son-in-law. Clem, donning a mournful expression, returned the embrace. He strived to please his in-laws, glad that Lorrie hadn't complained to them about their marital problems. After all, his main goal now was the company. He knew Lorrie would soon become the ghost and leave everything to him. It was her own fault. She shouldn't have angered him. She even threatened divorce, as if Clem could return to his old life in that one-room apartment he'd rented in the middle of nowhere. No, he wanted everything that belonged to Lorrie. Her business, her apartment, her country house, and her cars. He knew he'd get it all as soon as the machines in her room signalled her final heartbeat.
"Oh, Clem, you look terrible,"
Sarah Flynn remarked.
"Your eyes are swollen and red. You're so pale. Though we're all like that now. But don't be so despondent, honey. You're the lifeblood of the company right now. Take care of yourself, at least for Lorrie's sake."
Clem forced a smile. He realised his appearance conveyed deep grief, as if he couldn't sleep at night, weeping into his pillow. However, as soon as he looked up, he met the doctor's grey gaze. The neurosurgeon clutched a folder to his chest, staring thoughtfully at the visitor. The corner of his lip trembled, revealing a grin full of dislike. Clem realised that he did not fool the doctor. However, he did not interfere. Suddenly, a nurse in a pink uniform, typical of the children's wing, burst into the room. Apologising, she turned to the doctor.
"Dr. Brousseau, Polly's missing again. We've searched everywhere. She's nowhere to be found."
"Oh, Polly's at it again," he sighed, shaking his head. "Did you check the canteen? She might have smelled the buns like last time." The doctor hurried after the nurse. Clem, realising a child was missing from the hospital, muttered to himself, "What a mess here." Noticing his mother-in-law's surprised look, he shook his head. "Let me walk you out, okay? I just wanted to talk to you. I'll put these flowers in a vase." Laurie's parents agreed. Clem replaced the old bouquet with the fresh one, then, without even glancing at his wife, rushed out into the corridor. As soon as the visitors left, the door of the closet to the ward creaked open. A little girl with lovely curls peeked in. Seeing no one there, she smiled and entered, clutching her new toy, a teddy bear, to her chest. Polly was an orphan who had been in the hospital for a long time. The clinic had taken her in on a charitable basis, with Dr. Brousseau himself as her patron. Polly had already undergone several surgeries and was on the mend. However, everyone else in the hospital suffered from her mischief. As soon as she was back on her feet, she began exploring the clinic, making new acquaintances with children and adults, and sneaking into offices. She was unstoppable. Dr. Brousseau often spoke to Polly, asking her not to cause trouble. She'd look at the doctor with honest blue eyes, promise to behave, but soon boredom would set in, and the clinic staff would face her idea of fun once again. Recently, Polly had learned about Lorrie. She was fascinated that the beautiful woman slept all the time, just like in the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale from the book the doctor had given her. Polly began asking Dr. Brousseau about this sleeping princess. He willingly told her everything, even sharing how important it was to talk to Lorrie. Polly decided this would be her new mission. She constantly snuck into Lorrie's room, hiding under the bed or in an empty closet if someone walked by. The girl chatted with Lorrie without expecting a response. She was quite good at one-sided conversations. Polly shared her story of how she ended up in the orphanage and the hospital. She explained that she had no mother, and her stepfather had hurt her badly. This led to her surgeries, including having part of her lovely hair cut off, which upset her. However, Dr. Brousseau assured her that her baldness wasn't noticeable behind her curls, and that she was still the most beautiful girl in the world. He even gave her a dress and fancy bows to boost her confidence. Polly confided that she wished she had a daddy like Dr. Brousseau. He cared for her and brought gifts, spoke with her often, and even allowed to hug him. Today, Polly brought a new present. Dr. Brousseau gave me a teddy bear. You press its tummy. He records everything I say and plays it back. Even long poems, the girl explained, showing off her stuffed friend. He's just like a parrot. Then Polly began to talk about her self-proclaimed guardian. Dr. Brousseau is wonderful. He'll definitely save you, Polly said, sitting next to Lorrie and stroking the teddy bear's fur. He's the best doctor in the world. After a moment's thought, she added, Do you have a prince, Lorrie? He could kiss you, and then you'd wake up faster. Suddenly, Polly gasped as an idea struck her. Maybe Dr. Brousseau could kiss you. He looks like a prince. And you're beautiful, just like a princess. Don't worry about your missing hair either. It's nothing. Dr. Brousseau will surely like you. He thinks I'm a beautiful girl. She didn't expect an answer, but she noticed Aunt Lorrie's finger tremble. Polly blinked, startled by footsteps in the hallway. The girl instinctively slid under the bed, clutching her teddy bear. She thought it might be Nurse Helen or Dr. Brousseau looking for her. Polly pressed her palm to her mouth to stifle a giggle, not wanting to give herself away in this impromptu game of hide-and-seek. But then Polly realized the feet of the person who had entered were unfamiliar. The voice that followed was strange and unpleasant. Still lying there, the unfamiliar man muttered with obvious disdain. I'm sick of looking at you. He fell silent for a moment, then stomped his foot nervously before stepping forward. You know what that jerk Brousseau said? That you can hear me. So, listen up if you can. You're a pain in the ass, got it? When are you going to die? How long are you going to torture us all? Even your parents would be better off if you gave up already. He spat. Even if you open your eyes, what's the point? You won't be the same person. You'll be a cripple. Miracles don't happen, Lorrie. Understand? I won't take care of you, that's for sure. No reason to ruin anyone's life. He licked his lips. Polly lay frozen in fear, clutching her teddy bear to her chest. The evil man had terrified her. She was grateful that Teddy was there to protect her. Listen, you're tired too, aren't you? The man hissed. Should I help you? Put you out of your misery? You don't know how much I'm looking forward to it. How often I think about it. Clem wasn't lying. His hand reached for the machines, but his fingers trembled. He didn't have the courage, and he feared someone would discover his involvement and he'd end up in jail. No, he would wait. Clem lingered, telling Lorrie how he would live without her and manage the company. He even mentioned how fortunate the incident had been, blaming Lorrie and boasting about bribing the police with her money. Then he left. Polly didn't immediately crawl out from under the bed. She lay there shaking and crying, terrified. Dr. Brusso found her. He wanted to scold her, but seeing the girl's face, he only looked concerned. "Honey, what's wrong? Are you hurt?"
"No, I feel sorry for the princess. An evil man came," Polly sobbed, hugging the doctor's neck and burying her face. The doctor didn't immediately understand what the little girl was saying. He assumed the child was indulging in fantasies again. Dr. Brusso looked at Polly. "Sweetie, you shouldn't play here. It's very dangerous. You could accidentally harm the patient." "But Lorrie listens to me," the little girl protested. "I love her. You said that those who are loved wake up faster. And she moved her finger."
"What?" the doctor gasped.
"She moved her finger, like this,"
Polly demonstrated with her little finger. The man handed Polly to the nurse and sent her to the children's wing while he tended to Lorrie. Polly was right. The woman was improving. A couple of days later, the Flynns received joyous news. Their daughter had regained consciousness. It was too early to celebrate fully, but Lorrie was making remarkable progress. The doctors cared for her, and soon it became clear. Lorrie had won. She would be able to return to her former full life. As soon as visitors were allowed, Polly seized her chance. The doctor brought her in, apologizing in advance to the patient. "Polly has been trying to visit you despite the rules. She wanted to see you." Lorrie smiled warmly at the girl.
"I know," she said.
Then she confessed shyly,
"I think I heard the girl's voice. I thought I was dreaming of my daughter, even though I don't have one." "I could be her. I don't have a mum," the girl declared matter-of-factly. "Oh, and Dr. Brusso could be my daddy. Don't you want to marry him? He could kiss you."
The doctor and the patient looked at each other, bewildered. "Polly, that's not appropriate," he admonished gently.
"Darling, I already have a husband," Lorrie said sadly. "An evil man," Polly gasped. "He doesn't love you. He wanted you gone."
Lorrie recoiled. The doctor, alarmed by the patient's condition, moved to take the child away, but Lorrie stopped him.
"Wait! You know, while I was in a coma, I sometimes heard things, but now I can't separate reality from dreams. My mum was crying constantly. That's what I remember. But what drew me most was the sound of the girl's voice. I also think I heard Clem's voice. What he said. His words are frightening. Tell me, Polly, what did you hear?"
Polly, now alert, looked at the doctor and exclaimed,
"I must bring the teddy bear. He will tell everything. He heard it all too."
The doctor sighed, considering the little girl's vivid imagination, yet Polly insisted that the adults listen to the teddy bear. They relented and were stunned by what they heard. From that moment on, Polly kept the teddy bear in the far corner of the room as tangible evidence. She had already heard the evil uncle's voice and feared recording anything else. Now, the toy's creaking mechanism revealed Clem's desire to rid himself of his wife. Lorrie realized she hadn't imagined her husband's words. A couple of hours later, when Clem arrived at the hospital, flashing a smile and feigning joy at his wife's improved health, the neurosurgeon stopped him.
"What the hell?"
Clem protested indignantly. "I can't let you in. Lorrie's condition is still unstable. She's had visitors today and needs rest." The doctor lied. "But since you're here, Please come to my office. We need to talk." Clem grumbled but obediently followed Dr. Brousseau, striving to maintain his facade of concern. He was unaware that he was walking straight into a trap. In the office, Dr. Brousseau presented the bear and played the recording. Clem paled and rushed towards the doctor. "Listen, I was just in shock. Who would want a disabled wife, huh? That's why I was angry, talking nonsense." He then looked at the surgeon hopefully. "What do you want for your silence?" "The truth," said the doctor. "Tell me everything as it happened. I'm writing a paper on human behaviour, a scientific paper. I'm not interested in money." Clem, believing he'd gotten off easily, blurted out everything. He wasn't even afraid to lie, and he lacked the wit to concoct a believable story quickly. Polly would have done much better. Clem was unaware that everyone was listening. Lorrie, her parents, and 2 incorruptible police officers. The man was immediately arrested, charged with attempted murder of his wife, bribery, and several other crimes. Lorrie and Clem's marriage was annulled. Lorrie recovered swiftly, bolstered by the support of her parents, Polly and Dr. Brousseau. When the time came to discharge Polly from the hospital, she wept bitterly, reluctant to part with Lorrie. The woman's heart melted. "I'll take you home," she promised, kissing the top of the girl's head. "You're already my daughter. I thought you were my daughter while I was in a coma. I followed your voice. I came back to you, Polly. I know that now." Lorrie kept her word. She adopted Polly. Later, Dr. Brousseau became part of their family. He loved both girls dearly. 2 years later, Dr. Brousseau and Lorrie welcomed a son. In this tale, only the teddy bear didn't find his happy ending. Alas, he was taken as evidence and never returned. However, he didn't mind, for he had protected the one he loved, Polly. Polly knew with certainty, even as she grew older, that fairy tales could become reality, and cherished dreams could come true. After all, her dream of a happy family had materialized, and she had witnessed how a sleeping princess found her prince. Wasn't that a genuine miracle?